When I was growing up, my mom would often tell me, if you don't have time to do it right, you certainly don't have time to do it over. Man, that advice has been words of wisdom over and over again in all aspects of my life, even in woodworking. I get on a roll with a project and I just don't want to quit. And it really bothers me when I have to go back and redo something, especially if that thing costs me extra money in replacement parts. But when you're dealing with something like a guitar, you're creating an heirloom. It's something that could last, I don't know, 100 years. It could get passed down through multiple generations. So it's a long history. You don't want a poor choice that you made during your build to go down in history. Let me show you an example real quick. This is a fretboard that I was designing for a pastor up in the Montana area. He mentioned a couple of astronomy items for personalizations, specifically a compass rose and the Ursa Major constellation. So I created both. The constellation is simply just stars of two different sizes, and these are tiny. We're talking about less than 5 millimeters and less than 3.5 millimeters, so very, very small. I suppose I could have made them bigger so they were easier to work with, but I really wanted an effect that was very subtle. Next up we have the compass rose. Now again, I don't like inlays that take over the guitar, so I settled for it being here in this bottom corner. The challenge you'll always face with a fretboard is its orientation. Is up north when it's sitting vertical in a stand, or maybe hanging on a wall, or is it horizontal when the player is playing it? So I tried to settle between those two by replacing each of the directional markers in the compass rose with shell inlays. So then I turned the whole inlay halfway between the horizontal and vertical alignment. So the results turned out really nice, and I like that it's now in this neutral orientation. But here's the challenge when you're dealing with sharp points. Router bits are round. When you create the pockets in your fretboard, you're always going to have a little bit of fill work to do. Now, if you're working with something like ebony, the fill work isn't so bad. You would just take a little bit of super glue and mix in some of that ebony sawdust or even just some black dye, and you can backfill those gaps fairly easily. But when you're dealing with something like rosewood, the color is lighter and is more varied. So here's two examples side by side. You already saw some of the finished example earlier, but what you were seeing was round two. The first one didn't pass the level of quality that I wanted to see from my work. Take a look specifically at the area around the edges. It's most prominent here around the points. I pushed those pockets too far. I backfilled by dropping thin super glue into those gaps and then lightly sanding over top to push that sawdust into the glue. Now it works, but as you can see, it's not invisible. It will get a little bit better as you start oiling the fretboard because everything will darken up a little bit. The compass rose also suffered the same challenge. Again, you can see that the points are cut out too far. There's also an additional problem in these two because I set the pockets just a little bit too deep for these mother of pearl inlays, and that meant I had to backfill the surface in order to raise that up so that it would be smooth. But what happens is it just doesn't look right. Like, it's a little bit hazy, and there's even a little bit of a minor amount of dust that got trapped in there. Even as much as I tried to clear all of that out, there just is a little bit of residue left in there. Yeah, no amount of compressed air or even like a razor blade would clean out every bit of that in those edges. Now, I could have put more filler in there before I dropped in those shell inlays, but I didn't see that soon enough before I had put glue in there. So I guess note to self, I got to do more test fitting. So was the pain and cost of remaking the entire fretboard worth it? Absolutely. So for me, not only am I making an instrument that may survive generations, I'm making it specifically for people who are serving in ministry. These are people who regularly live out personal sacrifice in the name of serving others. That necessitates an effort from me that is reflective of their service, and hopefully something that even Mom would be proud of. Thanks, Mom. I'll catch y'all next time.